Subnautica 2 is out, and deviously I've had early access for like a week now. I've spent like 20 hours playing it already, and I've identified some of the biggest pitfalls and time wastes I had as a returning player, and some of the things brand new fresh divers will definitely need to be aware of. Number one, probably the first thing you should do when you get loose upon the world of Subnautica 2 is come about 150 meters northeast, stay nice and high at the top to avoid any potential angry fishies, and stick your hand in this tree's sack. This is going to give you the ability to eat the wildlife and flora in this game without using more advanced cooking techniques involving salt. I had a really hard time finding salt in my first couple of days, and it turns out I really didn't need to worry about it. I could just eat any old cooked fish like in Subnautica 1. I had just missed the cue to come and see this tree because I may have been busy looking at crabs at the time. Make sure you check the storage in your pod, by the way. It comes with some free food and water. There's actually a biolab very close to your starting location, and you don't need a base to get it up and running. Head to this welcome center about 80 meters southeast of your position, but go to the fabricator in your pod and craft a battery first. I'll get more into where materials and stuff spawn in another tip, but just, make a battery and follow me. Head inside and place the battery in here, and then head back to the workstation near the entrance. You get the choice of 2 active abilities and 2 passive abilities right at the very start of the game if you come here. For your active ability, you get to choose between Dash and Pathfinder. Dash gives you a dash, which is extremely useful for getting around early on and avoiding predators too. And Pathfinder gives you the ability to leave farts behind so you can find your way home if you get lost. Dash is going to be a lot more useful for people who have senses of direction, but if you're really scared of caving, you can always throw on the Pathfinder ability. With Dash though, every 5 seconds you can move through the water quickly, which is great for dodging attacks and just getting around faster, because before you have a vehicle you're really slow in this game. The passives are a more difficult choice in my opinion. You have the oxygen control, which reduces the speed you use oxygen at when not moving, which is very useful for when you're low on oxygen and you need to scan stuff or just evaluate your surroundings, or maybe listen to some underwater dialogue. You can see it activate up here when you're not moving, and you'll see your oxygen slows down a lot. The other option is Sea Skimmer, and that lets you swim faster when you're close to surfaces, which is really helpful for getting around early on as well, and getting through caves very quickly because you can scoot around near the bottom of the ocean very quickly. And as I said, you are really slow at the start of the game, so this is another good option. You don't have to make a permanent choice though. You can come here and slot them out whenever you want. It's completely modular. So don't be a dummy, genetically engineer yourself with rusty equipment. Another vital piece of equipment you cannot skip out on is the air bladder. Old Subnautica fans will probably already be familiar with this, but it is a game changer for early game exploration before you have vehicles. You just get it from the fabricator with some titanium, the grey metal lying everywhere, and rubber, which is crafted from these glowing bulbs called Lucifer rot sacks. Tasty. You'll find plenty of both of these around your starting area, so don't stress about the specifics, literally just look down and move around a bit. Now, craft yourself an air bladder. Hell, you can craft yourself 5 of them, I don't care. And this device will intake oxygen wherever there is some and store it so that you're able to use it to ascend very quickly. It'll take you like 100 meters up in like 3 seconds. But beware that it only has so much oxygen to give out, so if you're like 400 meters down for some reason without a vehicle, you may need to queue up a few of these to get back up in time to breathe. That's a really dumb way to play, but I'm not the police. Do what you want. If you're inside a cave, you can also huff the air bladder's farts. Every term in this video is completely scientific, by the way, and it'll give you a nice chunk of oxygen. I haven't tested multiplayer yet, but the tooltip does say it also gives nearby divers some air too. This will also be fairly obvious to returning players, but the brain coral and its lovely oxygen farts have a successor in this game called the oxygen tunic. If you see a glowing blue glub of oxygen floating around, you can go in there and breathe. Always be aware of where these are when you're caving. Titanium, copper, quartz, salt, lead, and silver are going to be the big materials you need at the start of the game that you can find in the starting area. Titanium is easy, it's everywhere. You'll find big chunks of it in caves or some scrap metal near wreckages that you can turn into titanium as well. Copper is best found in caves. You'll usually spawn right on top of a cave with some copper in it, and of course you'll need a sonic resonator to get the really big nodes later on. Quartz will occasionally spawn on the ground, but the main source is going to be in these hollow coral domes. These are absolutely filled with quartz, and they're everywhere, so you should never run low on it in the starting area. Salt is a little bit harder. About 200 meters south of your pod, you'll find a cave with a few salt in it. And about 300 meters away in the same direction, you can go really low down to 100 meters and find plenty of it on the seafloor. Bring an air bladder if you don't have a better air tank or a vehicle yet though. Silver is easier but rarer. You'll need it even to make your first air tank, which complicates getting it the first time a little bit. About 100 meters north of your pod, you'll find a big coral dome. There is a cave underneath that, and if you go all the way through, you'll find some silver. There's an air pocket in the ceiling that can help you with breathing. There's not a huge amount of silver in here, but it's enough to get you started, particularly getting you oxygen tanks. Remember, you can carry around a spare oxygen tank to give you some more oxygen whenever you need it, but it only gives about 30 extra seconds of oxygen rather than being flawless like in Subnautica 1. Still, it's a bit better than an air bladder if you had to choose between the two of them. You just have to remember to actually manually refill it when you're in an air pocket. The air bladder will do it itself. Once you have a sonic resonator, by the way, you can find loads of silver just 200 meters southeast of your pod in that same salt cave, and beyond the starting area you will find silver pretty commonly in deeper caves. 300 or so meters east of your pod you'll find this opening area, and this is where a lot of lead will spawn. I'll leave the rest of the resources in the game to you, but that should get you your basic gear and base started. But with all these new resources, we should talk about 2 new points of inventory management you'll need to know about. Number 5 is wireless storage. Storage is now wireless in Subnautica 2. You don't need to manually bring your stuff over to the fabricator, just dump it in a storage container in your base or even a storage container vaguely next to your base, and the fabricators inside will draw from it automatically, as well as your habitat builder. As a side note, you can now also stack up items to craft in the fabricator rather than having to click and then wait and then click and wait. You can just click, 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 and wait. Also, on the topic of storage, this was something I learned after writing this video originally. You can get vehicle hardpoints on the tadpole, which you can actually attach the things from the utility tab in your habitat builder to, namely the work light, the oxygen generator, and the deployable storage. So you can add storage to your vehicle using these hardpoints. I spent about 5 hours playing Subnautica 2 without realizing this mechanic exists. In your gameplay, you'll find little hidden chambers of sciencey stuff. I won't tell you where for spoiler reasons, but just know they exist. Inside, you'll find stuff to scan and story elements. You'll also find a biobed in all of them. Click on the biobed. I had to go around for like an hour regathering all these locations because I had no idea this was a thing, but if you do, it'll give you a bunch of upgrades like more inventory slots and more hotbar slots, just for finding it for free, and I had to go and find them all again. It's very useful though. Building a base was of course already very important in the previous Subnautica games, but in 2, it's necessary very quickly. The life pod fabricator is not as effective as it used to be, and you won't be able to craft anything but the basics, so get your base set up as soon as possible so you can craft the good gear. You may need to explore some wreckages to be able to build any of the actual bigger rooms, but you can't go wrong with a good old corridor piece with a hatch and some solar panels, unless you're 1,000 meters below sea level, of course. Flares were somewhat important in the original Subnautica as they also distracted animals, but honestly, nobody ever used them. The wildlife was either extremely dumb or extremely easy to avoid. You may not have such luck in Subnautica 2, the AI has been stepped up quite a bit. Predators are more alert, more aggressive, they move in packs, they even have symbiotic relationships with other predators. In short, Subnautica 2 isn't fucking around, especially since there's no stasis rifle this time around. You'll notice a distinct lack of huge amounts of hostile enemies like you would see in Subnautica 1 because they are much smarter and deadlier this time around. They didn't have to spam 150 bone sharks in every biome just to have it be vaguely dangerous. So this time, flares are going to be a big part of your survival. Light one up and throw it and predators will be briefly distracted, allowing you to escape. This is very important now that you can't stasis rifle everything and stab it to death. With some fibrous pulp and one of each of the 3 unique moonfish variants, you can make 3 servings of 3 moon Temaki. Each serving gives 60 food and 15 health, which is very efficient for your inventory space, making it great for long distance exploration. To make it, you need to find each variant of the moonfish. There is the pink half moon, the blue with orange markings blue moon, and the blue with green markings harvest moon. Yes, that's actually what it's called. These can be found swimming around your starting life pod pretty much immediately, and fibrous pulp can be acquired just by stabbing plants. The only limiting factor really is that you'll need an actual base fabricator to build it, not just your life pod one. It is a very efficient food source though. The fabricator isn't the only thing used to make resources now. We have the processor. The major difference here is that it takes a lot more power to use, it takes a lot more time to craft certain things, and it's used to craft more advanced recipes. So if you can't figure out why you can't craft certain things, like say a titanium ingot, it's probably because you need a processor. You'll need some decent power generation to get one of these running, and indeed you'll need to scan one in the first place. I'm using creative here to show you how it works because there's too many spoilers in my actual playthrough base to show you it right now. But they can take like 2 minutes to craft some things in here, so there's a bigger emphasis on consistent power production for your resources and indeed just time. Fortunately, we have the power storage blocks and new power generators in the hydroelectric generator, which are perfectly balanced with no concerns at all. If you found these tips helpful, I'd really appreciate a subscription. We're trying to hit 100k by the end of the year. There is more Subnautica 2 content coming for sure, and when it does, it'll be popping up on screen, so if you need some more tips, check it out. Thank you for watching.